Yeah, The Intercept reported on this a little while ago, though Ken has left The Intercept, so maybe this is a snipe? I'm not really sure. The document has not been previously made public. This below is a text of a White House document leaked to me outlining the Biden administration's quote-unquote principles with respect to Gaza. The document has not previously been made public. I trust Ken. As members of the international community, with a vital interest in supporting a future of peace and security for Israelis, Palestinians, and all those impacted by the conflict in Gaza, I'm sure, we affirm that key principles to secure a durable peace in the post-conflict period and advance two-state solution include: the international community must support the Palestinian people in rebuilding their lives in the Gaza Strip, including through extraordinary investments in humanitarian reconstruction and economic development needs. This requires the opening of land crossings in the Gaza Strip and the unimpeded and sustainable flow of humanitarian and reconstruction assistance. Gaza's neighbors must support and facilitate this process. Groups that espouse the use of violence or commit terrorist attacks against civilians cannot govern or dictate Gaza's future. All right, VGG, we're out. All terrorist organizations and armed groups must disarm and renounce violence. Yeah, that'll happen. A disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration mechanism will facilitate this process in Gaza. Israel must withdraw from the Gaza Strip with no reduction in its territory or reoccupation. There must be no forced displacement from Gaza, and Palestinians must be allowed to return to their communities in Gaza. What homes? I guess that's why they say community. The West Bank and the Gaza Strip must ultimately be reunified under the sole authority of the Palestinian Authority, including civil governance and security responsibilities. The transitional period of Palestinian-led governance will require unique arrangements and support and contributions from international partners. An enduring end to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and end to the occupation can only be achieved through direct negotiations between Israel and the Palestinian Liberation Organization that resolve all final status issues. We support steps to resume final status negotiations to achieve the goal of two states. Palestinians deserve in dignity and security an independent, contiguous, and viable state of their own. Israelis deserve and live in security, be accepted, recognized, integrated into the region. Arab Peace Initiative. Coordinated regional effort. The possibility of normalization between Saudi Arabia and other Arab states and Israel with concrete progress towards a two-state solution is a promising avenue to achieving peace, security, and regional integration that will benefit us all. So far, everything that we've seen seems pretty par for the course. We know that the Biden administration's official policy is promoting a two-state solution. This seems to be the way they're putting it forward. Through Saudi Arabia. It looks like normalization of Saudi-Israeli relations are being dangled as a kind of hook to bait long-term security. Saudi Arabia and Israel have a lot in common in the sense that both of them are evil. Having a normalized and secure relationship with Saudi Arabia would make things easier for Israel, because that means the only regional enemies they would really have to contend with, or like regional antagonistic forces, I should say, would be Iran and everyone associated with them, which is still, in fairness, a lot. But you know, you would like Saudi Arabia ideally to be on their side as well. And by you, I mean them. You know, I think they're evil, personally. Saudis and Israel cooperate militarily since at least the Yemen war. Oh, no, I know that. It's not like Saudi Arabia and Israel were like enemies, but they haven't exactly been the best of friends. Mostly because they have... Saudi Arabia wants to normalize relations with the Houthis so they can stop like dealing with Yemen all the time, and Israel and the Houthis are like basically at war. Saudi Arabia doesn't want open and direct and constant antagonism with Iran because Iran has so much more cultural weight in the region and like adjacent. Honestly, Iran kind of surrounds Saudi Arabia if you count in all the Iranian proxies, if you count in like Lebanon and Syria and now Iraq and Yemen. You know, Iran has a ton of clout. Like it's basically like Iran or the oil states. You know, is Iraq an Iranian proxy now? Say it's a proxy. I would just say you know, Iraq hates Iran. It's kind of complicated, man. You know, Iran has like a 250,000-man army in Iraq that Iraq allows to exist. Yeah, I've heard about that. Kind of crazy. Heard of it? There's a lot of Shiites, man. A lot of Shiites. Why? A lot of Shiites. Saddam Hussein was basically the only reason the Shiites didn't have more power in Iraq, you know? The Ba'athist party was really keeping their foot down. I didn't expect this from you, blowing my nose on stream without muting the mic first. I do that all the time. I have no respect for you guys. Unilateral actions and violations by the government of Israel and the Palestinian Authority that undermine progress towards the two-state solution must end, including the expansion to settlements and outposts and the glorification of terrorism and violence. The government of Israel and the Palestinian Authority must uphold the rule of law and reject violence. I like the idea that the Palestinian Authority and Israel are in any way comparable with regards to their committing violence. It's not Hamas and Israel. It's like, oh yeah, the Palestinian Authority just constantly engaging in militant action right now in Gaza. The parties must implement commitments made in prior agreements about Sharm el-Sheikh, the Palestinian Authority. Okay. Right, hold on. So to summarize, Gaza must cede all authority to govern itself. Wait, what? This doesn't say Gaza must cede all authority to govern itself. It said itself that Gaza must... Wait, what? It said the opposite of that. It said that Israel must extend no... That it must be... Oh, they think the Palestinian Authority is like a Western plant. Which, in fairness... you know, is it maybe a little bit? Just a smidgen, maybe? The PA only operates in the West Bank, not Gaza. Yeah, and they've been wanting it to be moved to Gaza. But right now, like, the people in charge of Gaza, ostensibly at least, of course, right now the IDF controls Gaza. But is Hamas, and Hamas is not a democratic organization. So, whatever. The Palestinian Authority isn't great. It's better than Hamas in terms of its ability to represent the will of the Palestinian people. That's not really them, like, ceding all ability to govern itself, though. The West Bank must cede all settlements and allow Israel to control the flow of Palestinian citizens completely. Wait, where is this person getting this summary of the thing from? The West Bank must cede all settlements. Did it mention that? Where did it mention the West Bank? Isn't this all about Gaza? Did I, like, completely blank on that and miss that? Where did it say that? They dreamt it? Okay. This isn't surprising to me. I mean, these outcomes will be better. Point 4, maybe? The West Bank and Gaza Strip must be reunified under the sole authority of the Palestinian Authority. Yeah, that's the opposite, though. That's the opposite. The Palestinian Authority is already ostensibly in control of the West Bank. This is in no way, shape, or form it's just a completely hallucinated version of the content of this message. Again, not defending the Biden administration, who we all know I've criticized extensively. But yeah, just yeah, I don't know. Whatever. I mean, we'll see if the Biden administration will actually do anything to facilitate this outcome. But so far, I gotta say, point 3 and 4, incoherent. Oh, there's a lot of incoherence here. The incoherence stems mostly from the fact that the Biden administration can't admit that Israel is a terrorist organization that is willfully destroying Gaza, and that there's not really any comparison to it. They're talking about point number 2. Groups that espouse the use of violence or commit terrorist acts against civilians cannot govern or dictate Gaza's future. All terrorist organizations and armed groups must disarm and renounce violence. Yeah, they're saying they want to get rid of Hamas. That's kind of expected, obviously. Biden's not going to defend Hamas here. I'm not going to defend Hamas here, you know? Hamas has done a pretty terrible job advocating for the interests of the Palestinian people. Bibi attacked Lebanon. The Biden administration has cautioned Israel in recent weeks against the notion of a limited war in Lebanon and warned it could push Iran to intervene. Man, this would be like are you guys ready for some real politic with the Netanyahu going like, well, the only way for me to stay in charge is for the war to be ongoing. So let's, let's orchestrate a war with you. I hope you guys understand how ruinous this would be. Hezbollah would f the IDF up. The IDF have demonstrated remarkable incompetence in their handling of Gaza, largely because it seems like their military brass are being promoted based on how racist they are. Like, it's every glint of information that we have seen from the IDF's like higher command indicates at best incompetence and at worst sheer malevolent incompetence, like just a willfulness to destroy their own operational effectiveness in support of like the committing of war crimes. I mean, I don't know. The fact that the IDF is as large as it is and Hamas was able to reestablish a foothold in Gaza City is crazy. Crazy. The Israeli settler sanctions don't seem to have done much. Oh, no, of course not. They never were going to. The document doesn't call for Israel to cede the illegal settlements, only asks for no more further expansion. Oh, yeah, no, it's not. It's pretty toothless. I mean, the most it says is, Yeah, no, it doesn't really talk about this. This is mostly about Gaza. Dude, if Israel provokes a war with Hezbollah, okay, first of all, several things are going to happen, okay? Hezbollah is massive. It is the world's largest non-state army. It's like 250,000 people. It's not just 250,000 people. These aren't like recruits or whatever. These guys are lunatics. They're not all lunatics, okay? A lot of them are jihadists. A lot of them are just like militant partisans. A lot of them are just like very distrustful of the Lebanese government. There's a whole coalition of interests here. The thing that unites them is that they're in it to win it. They're pretty committed, you know? There aren't people doing like loose 2-year service tours with Hezbollah in order to get their college education, okay? They're in it to win it. Zealously dedicated. A lot of them are veterans because they've been in like a non-stop constant state of warfare, and Iran would probably support them, and Iran of course has a wealth of resources. Hezbollah is pretty I don't want to say militarily competent, but they're pretty well armed. Certainly more so than Hamas, like by a massive amount. They got a lot of like Iran-supplied Cold War era weaponry, included guiding weapons. Wait, so Hezbollah is like a PMC? No. They're essentially a massive army that is as large as a large state's army, but they're not officially in control, or they're not officially controlled by the government of Lebanon. But if they wanted to, they could take over Lebanon. It's like they're not... Think of them like the Houthis, but a lot larger, right? Where they control a large territory, but they're not like officially... They're like a militia. Yeah, it's just militia kind of downplays how strong they are. Why don't they? Can the USA take them down? The USA can do whatever it wants. Why don't they? I actually don't know why. I think right now Hezbollah is mostly intent on maintaining its border presence adjacent to Israel, and they don't want to do like a war on two fronts kind of thing. I don't know why they let Lebanon, because if they wanted to, they could take Lebanon. Like very easily. Hezbollah has a seat in the Lebanese parliament. Yeah, but they could like conquer Lebanon very, very easily if they wanted to. Quick Google says IDF has 500k personnel versus Hezbollah 150k isn't a factor. I'm not saying that their army is larger than the IDF's. I'm saying that like, look at how much the IDF has waffled against Hamas. Do you know how nothing Hamas is? Hamas with their bottle rockets, their paragliders, Hamas with their IEDs. Hezbollah has real military equipment, you know? I mean, admittedly old military equipment, but like look at how old these anti-aircraft guns are. My God. I think Hezbollah just doesn't actually want to govern Lebanon. Smart of them. The IDF has newer equipment as well. IDF hasn't exactly waffled against Hamas. They're just killing everyone indiscriminately. No, they are. If you want a good comparison, watch the Operation Room videos on the Gulf War. Watch the Coalition of the Willing dismantle Iraq and Saddam Hussein like Neo taking apart like a quadriplegic grandma, you know? Like it's insane. If you compare the IDF was supposed to be one of the most competent militaries in the world because they're hyper militarized, they're like socially integrated, it's like part of the social service or whatever. Israel's super well armed. And then with Hamas, like it's taken them so long, they've up in so many different ways. It's not just the indiscriminate killing. A lot of it is just genuine sheer incompetence. And I think a lot of it genuinely is because people in the IDF are getting promoted based on ideological zealotry. That's the difference. In the American military, the upper brass in the Pentagon, for the most part, are promoted because they're ballpoint pen carrying West Point graduate like Poindexter nerds. Who are really, really, really into their job in like a bureaucratic sense. Like they're competent administrators of war, where it seems like a lot of the people in the IDF are like ideologues, zealots. The same thing happens to a lot of fascist governments, if you can believe it. The more pragmatic military officials are ousted because they say stuff like, please stop killing these minority groups. It's not benefiting us either. And they get replaced with the lunatic ideologues who are like, yeah, fuck it, I'll personally go there and shoot them, you know? The people who glaze Netanyahu or whatever the leadership is, like this happens a lot, basically. Of course, Hezbollah is also like lunatic fanaticism, you know, incarnate in a lot of respects. But I think it works a little bit differently when you're operating in that kind of insurgency space where the lunacy can serve to your benefit. The Taliban were a pretty effective fighting force in spite of being insane. So I guess there's kind of a difference in the way you expect insurgent, like paramilitary groups to work versus, you know, real professional armies. It's complicated. I don't know. I don't know. That is true, K Comrade Robin Hood, though that doesn't speak very positively to their, I don't know, interest in keeping the peace. Is this a different aspect of the good activists make bad administrators thing? Wabbajack, you fucking genius. You are completely correct. This is the military version of activists don't always make good politicians. Yeah, this is the fascist military equivalent of it. Unironically, exactly the same thing. The ability to toe the partisan line and, like, be a hyper aggressive advocate for a position does not mean you'd be good at administrating an army in the service of that position. 100%, yeah. Well done. Very good. The principle remains the same. I don't know, I was told the IDF leadership is those procedural centrist nerds. Wrong. Incorrect. So many people at the beginning of this conflict were like, yeah, the IDF has every drone strike vetted by 50 lawyers, and their chain of command is incredibly precise. And then you just look at a nonstop cavalcade of IDF soldiers posting war crimes to TikTok, and they're like drone strikes on civilian populations where the IDF is like, or they're like getting confused messages. It's kind of like the propaganda we heard about Russia, where we heard for decades that the Russian military was like crack, top of the line, and then they actually get into conflict and they suck. You know, same thing. Israel and Russia, two countries, one struggle. Being really stupid. That's the tough one. Yes, Turkey's in the same position. Exactly the same position, yeah. And I wish the Kurds all the luck in the world. What I fear the problem will be is the U.S. will go to war with Israel if the IDF fumbles. I think you mean with, like, alongside Israel. I doubt we're going to get involved. Right now, the American public's interest in sending troops to the Middle East to back up Israel is nil. The most we would do is park one of our carrier groups off the shores of Lebanon and fire missiles into them, which admittedly we've already threatened to do, but, you know. True, the IDF keeps having friendly fire incidents, which is a massive indicator of poor troop discipline and lacking communication. Since when has that ever stopped the U.S. government? It does. The U.S. government doesn't really have a history of putting troops on the ground in new conflicts when it's not popular. It's really tough to. The Korean War and the Vietnam War, in the beginning, we were still, like, gunned up in our fight against communism and our memories of being the good guys in World War II. Like, we've had little special troop operations, but in terms of major commitments of military forces, people weren't that down on Afghanistan and Iraq when they happened. Like, not saying they were unambiguously across the board supported. I'm just saying that, like, right now, there seems to be zero interest in it, you know? Zero interest. Was there more support for the Vietnam War when it started than there was for the Iraq War? When they began? I'm not sure, actually. I don't know. I would say they were probably in comparable positions where at the very beginning, the pretext was like, yeah, we're gonna, you know, we're gonna protect Saigon, whatever, spread of communism, containment theory. And then with Iraq, it's like, you know, democracy, 9/11, weapons of mass destruction, whatever. But eventually they both became really unpopular. Yeah. Yeah, I gotta say, though, military engagement with Hezbollah would be pretty ruinous. I don't think Hezbollah would, like, defeat Israel or anything insane like that. It's just, given how much the IDF has waffled now, I feel like we'll reach unprecedented levels of waffling. I mean, my God. Israel has nukes? Yeah, everyone says that, but, like, no one's willing to use them, you know? Like, Russia has nukes, and they haven't used them, even though they've been stuck in Ukraine for 2.5 years, right? If Israel used nukes on Lebanon, not even the United States would be able to defend them. I know that, like, it's like, oh, are you sure? Like, the U.S. is pretty bad? I know the U.S. is pretty bad. The use of nuke... my personal opinion is that, like, the political fallout of Israel using nukes would be so devastating for Israel that in the long run, it would be worse for their country than the one they dropped the nuke on. Like, Lebanon would suffer immediately, and then for a while after due to radiation. Israel would be a pariah unlike the world has ever seen. North Korea would be like a beloved member of the international community in comparison to Israel. It would be insane, you know? I don't think anyone's going to use nukes. The main problem for Israel is that Hezbollah has so many rockets and missiles it would overwhelm the Iron Dome. Oh yeah, the Iron Dome would not work against Hezbollah at all. There is just every rocket the Iron Dome uses is far more expensive than the rocket or missile that it destroys. I should say missile, they're not rockets. Every missile used by the Iron Dome is more expensive than the missiles that it intercepts. Hezbollah has far more to fire than Israel could intercept. That's true, Moscow, yeah. What do you say of the theory World War III has already started? Soy-pilled and gay. If the Cold War didn't count as World War III, how the hell does this? Yeah, if you will please consult the chart. Gay equals derogatory? Yeah, when I say it like that, yes. Pick up in the context. Skirmishes between Israel and Hezbollah along the border have been steadily escalating. Many of the Israeli villages and towns near the border are deserted. Man. Like the death cult GOP are probably trying to pull the strings to usher in nuclear war. You know, this might be a little bit edge case on my part. I genuinely think that even the Republicans would be opposed to any kind of massive escalation in the Middle East for one reason in particular. The evangelicals desperately want Jews to control the Holy Land so they can do their Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, bring about the rapture, sacrifice the Jews in the Levant bullshit. And you can't do that if the Jews in the Levant are all dead from nuclear war. You know, they're supposed to die in the rapture. They're not supposed to die beforehand. If the war gets too out of control, that's why Biden is supporting Israel. Nah, Biden's a Catholic. He's not an evangelical. He's not about all that. Biden is supporting Israel because he's a dyed-in-the-wool Zionist. He was alive when Israel was created. Nuclear war would be read as the rapture IMO. I mean, maybe if it hit Israel, some people would think that. I don't think that'd be politically supported, though. You think Republican, conservative, Christian types even, like, believe in that shit? No shot.